Welcome all. Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, Coleman instructor extraordinaire. Katie Watucky, editor extraordinaire. How are you two doing?
Doing great today, Bob. I feel for Katie because as time goes on, she's going to get so busy with Fraud Friday.
Yeah, we're getting more and more stories. I'm opening up my news feed, and just every day I'm seeing things now.
Called the Katie Watucky Full Employment Act. So she's.
Although, Bob, I want to hear more about the story y'all talked briefly about yesterday. I surely look forward to it.
I know, so do I. What are in your, yeah, how'd you think you're going to get away with them? Anyway, welcome all. We appreciate your support. There's a certificate for today. And today we're going to talk about dental practices. We don't have a lot from SBA. Obviously, we'll talk about that. But we want to talk about dental practice and what's your experience?
You know, dental practice lending, Bob, is a great market for SBA loans. And now that dentists are back, are they back to work in your state, Bob, in California?
Well, I was going to say, I actually went and had my teeth cleaned yesterday, so.
Excellent. Well, they're back to work here as well, but, you know, dentists do incredibly well. It's a good area of lending for SBA.
Absolutely, and if you're in the 1 or 2 years or none, be sure and think about that as a niche. Dentists are still, unlike doctors, dentists are still predominantly small business people. They run their own practice. Now, there are groups that are buying up sole practices, but there's a, tremendous amount of small business owners. And it's interesting. My dentist, I had an appointment for mid-March, obviously that was canceled. And they just sent me a text. They said, hey, show up yesterday at noon and we'll take care of you. It's pretty good marketing.
Bob,
showed up.
Several friends of mine have been practicing dentists for a long time, and I've always teased them to show me the printing press for money in the back of the dental office. Dental offices tend to do very well, very profitable, tend to have strong cash flow, and as we navigate this pandemic lending, you want to find an industry that can create significant cash flow, and dental practices are one of those.
Two caveats. Caveat number one, I should know the number. How many people have lost their jobs, Katie, since this beginning?
Oh, I haven't seen an updated number in a little while. It's quite sad, but yeah. I do know that things are picking up, so hopefully they'll start going back to their jobs because we're still going to need these businesses after all this is said and done.
Yeah. Well, two things on dental practice. Number one, people who lost their jobs obviously lost their insurance, which means they're going to postpone dental work. Mm-hmm. And guess what happens when you postpone dental work? You get bigger bills. So, what do you think is going to happen with revenues? And there's no right answer, obviously. Just curious.
You know, Bob, and I don't know the answer to this either, but I'm going to go with increase over 10%. When we're looking at 3 years, I think over 10%.
Yeah, 5 and 10%. They're all right answers. I don't think they're going to decrease, but obviously I think they will be increasing. Especially there's a pent-up demand. No one's gone to the dentist the last 3 months.
And what Bob is saying is absolutely on point. There are some people that lost dental insurance, but guess what? When they go back to work and get dental insurance again, there's going to be tons of work for the dentist to complete. Yeah. So there may be a short-term lull in revenue, but then there'll be a significant level after that.
And this is just background. Have you been to the dentist? I already said I have. Katie, what about you? Lance, what about you?
I have not gone, but my fiance went yesterday, and he said you got to do the temperature checks there, and they had to do a lot of extra precautions, but otherwise it seems like they're open and things are running as normal.
Yeah, they kicked me out of the office. I checked in, and they said, go stand outdoors. And I had to
I'm in the same boat as Katie. I have a pending dental appointment. Actually had a dental appointment, Bob, at the beginning of April. and which obviously was canceled, and now it's rescheduled in July.
Go back to the poll results if you can. I'm glad to see that. I did not think it'd be 18%. What do you think, Lance?
Oh, I'm absolutely surprised that 1 out of 5 of you have had the opportunity to go back to the dentist.
Right.
That's an impressive number. And I've got to be honest with you, Bob. I wish my dental appointment was tomorrow because I'd be happy to go and get it taken care of.
Right. Anyway, very good. Katie, go through some of our stats.
So this is the most recent information from the American Dental Association. What they do is they take a poll about every 2 weeks and then publish it. So this week they'll be taking a poll and the news will be published in a week or two from today. So this is the most recent. As of May 18th, 65% of dental practices in the United States were open. That number has probably increased just because, knowing what I know about May, a lot of businesses did reopen in May, so that's probably much higher now. 38% reported that patient volume had returned to pre-coronavirus levels, which is good, and I think that's a good point. You were saying people do still need dentistry, and they're going to go back as soon as they have their dental insurance. Staffs were fully paid by 58% of dental practices compared to 11% that were paid the week of April 6th. So almost a month, or a little over a month earlier, that was only 11%. So definitely they're getting rehired and things are starting to go back to normal. 27% of employed dentists report being fully paid as of May 18th. Which is a 13 percentage point increase from the data from the week of May 4th. And the top reasons for dental practices not reopening yet are state recommendations, lack of adequate supply of PPE, unclear guidance on reopening practices, and dental team members' hesitation to return to practice.
Yeah, when you say unclear guidance for reopening, I talked to my dentist and he said, he's waiting for the California Dental Association to send him some rules, and they're poking around in the dark. Obviously, we're wearing masks. You don't wear a mask and you have your teeth cleaned, but they you walk in and now it's like the bank. They got windows, and anyway, it's yeah. Let's go to the next slide. I like this. They're starting to hire their people back, right, Katie?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this reflects a lot of what I was just talking about with them rehiring. You can see, June 1st, it does show that updated number that it looks like is probably fluctuating still because they haven't actually officially released the report. But as of June 1st, it looks like 77% now are fully open. So it is definitely increasing from looking back at March and April, where April we only had 11%. So things are reopening, especially in the dentistry department.
And I'm amazed by the stat. I would not have guessed that, Lance and Katie. 37% receive PPP funds.
That's pretty impressive, Bob. But all of us who worked on PPP processing, of course, you didn't have time to stop and pause and say, ooh, it's a dentist, but there were quite a few dental practices. Hey, Bob, one question I'd like to see us ask soon of our participants. How many of our participants is your bank lobby open? It'd be interesting to find out how many bank lobbies are actually open.
Joseph, let's run that tomorrow, please. Okay. Very good. And here are the stats, and this is why we are bullish on dentists. And when you look at the numbers from 2010 to 2019, those are the 10-year numbers. It's not 1.3% a year. It's 1.3% over 10 years. So,
wow.
We got, what do we have? $5 billion dispersed. They pay off very well. 9,000 loans. This is definitely a niche that you should take a strong look at.
Well, and it's a vertical market that a lot of the big national SBA lenders go after, but that doesn't mean a small SBA participant lending institution can't go after the local dentist in their area. Again, my comments earlier, I know we have a short-term decrease in revenue, and not all the offices are open, but once they're back up running at normal capacity, the dental practice is a strong performing, as evidenced by the charge-off percentage, Bob, 0.17%.
Yeah, we were able to sell. We were able to liquidation. You're able to sell the practice pretty easily. There's a lot of people who want to get involved with that. We haven't talked much about this, but I'm a big believer in riches and niches. And there's a number of things you can do. Obviously, you can target market to dentists, but get involved. Try to get them. If this is what you're serious about, try to get involved with LinkedIn groups who specialize in dentists and start contributing to those groups as an expert. And and build up your profile. That's something you do. The other advantage to dentists, Lance, is a lot of them own their own property.
That's exactly true, and there's not only opportunities for 7A loans, but probably the most attractive SBA product out there is the 504 refi right now, with the incredibly attractive rates on the debenture side of that. If you've got dental practices where they own the commercial real estate, and maybe they have an existing mortgage on it, maybe a great opportunity for your institution to introduce them to a 504 refi.
And one of the reasons why they have such a low charge-off rate is dentists have a very strong secondary source of repayment. If their sole proprietorship practice fails, they can go get a job, and theirs says the median salary is about $160,000. So that's with all healthcare professionals. And I imagine, Lance, you've had experience, but a lot of these loans that go bad, the bank works with them on selling the practice, or the entrepreneur says, hey, I'll just pay it off over 10 years or whatever.
Well, the dental practice is exactly as you put it in the liquidation process. I've had the opportunity to liquidate a couple of dental practices, not recently, but years ago, Bob. And you were exactly right. It was easy to find somebody willing to buy the practice, and in both cases, neither resulted in a charge-off. Both resulted in the loan finally being paid in full.
Yeah. And I would also check, you don't need to travel across the country, but if you have a local dental association, they're always looking for vendors. You may want to talk to them about putting up a booth. Obviously, California, Florida, Texas, they have their own state associations, and that's something you can go to and start networking in there. But I'm not going to go through this, but it's here. You can download it and print it off. But these are the addendum for items that you need for the SBA underwriting. And what we've done on this is we've added things that you need in addition to your normal credit underwriting procedures.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about the Main Street Lending Program. What is that, Katie?
So the Main Street Lending Program was introduced shortly after the PPP program. And the program initially was a 4-year term loan program. Just on Monday, the Treasury released an update, probably in response to the smaller PPP loans and things like that, to try to make this a little bit more applicable to mid-sized businesses. So the terms of the loan have changed. To 5 years, which makes that a little bit easier for those mid-sized businesses. The minimum loan size has also been adjusted down, but just for the new loan and priority loan programs. And the maximum loan size has been increased slightly. Those are the major changes to it. Otherwise, it is very similar. I don't think we probably have too many lenders on the call today that this is really going to apply to, but if it does apply to you, there is going to be a conference call online June 11th, and you can get there. There's a registration link here if that applies to your business.
Very good. And what's interesting about that is, Lance and Katie, that, by the way, it conflicts with our show tomorrow, which is okay. But they're talking about an updated on loan forgiveness, but we haven't received any guidance. Lance, do you have any inside information?
Well, there's nothing new other than what we know about the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act, but I think most institutions are still waiting on some guidance about how forgiveness is actually submitted to SBA. We've seen the forgiveness form. We all know that the forgiveness form is being tweaked as we speak to fit the new Paycheck Protection Program flexibility rules, but again, we still need some idea, and I'm sure it's going to be via E-Tran or, there's going to be some way to upload or click on a box and save for submission of forgiveness for the small business owner that got the PPP loan. But I get calls and emails every day, Bob. How do we submit it? Not sure yet.
Yeah. And I get emails from you with questions, the same thing, and we just don't know. We're not going to speculate. We obviously.
Well,
go ahead, Lance.
The other thing that would be interesting, Bob, is just a poll finding out from our participants, are you getting PPP forgiveness apps at this point? What are you doing with it?
Joseph, let's add that. Yeah, let's add that for tomorrow, Joseph. Okay. Great. Let's see. We have your 2 webinars coming up, Lance.
Very excited about doing something on servicing and liquidation. I work in the production of SBA loans and underwriting, but my long-term activity in SBA included a ton of liquidation and servicing, including my time at SBA as deputy director. And so we're going to talk about what to do with an SBA loan that is approaching 60 days past due or over 60 days past due. What servicing techniques do you need to be able to employ on those loans? And then after that, we're going to have a webinar on the 10-tab package. Again, guys, you don't have a flood of loans that are problems right now because most of them are getting payments made by the SBA, but when we come out of that 6 months worth of payments, they're going to be defaults, and they're going to be the need to submit 10-tab packages. So now is the time to build your skill set.
Absolutely. Great advice. We're starting our summer training on July 1. By the way, we have a bank who registered a number of people here in Southern California, and I know we got your request to do a separate session. Happy to do that. We'll schedule a half hour, coordinate with Michael, and we will do that. And I think we're bring you up to date on that for our underwriter training. And obviously our franchise NICS reports are available. That's where we got the dental statistics. And questions? Michael, do we have any questions?
No, clear.
We're clear. Well, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Send us any of your questions. You're welcome to send the questions on loan forgiveness and full-time equivalency calculations, and we'll continue to punt on those. Yeah. But thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's main and rural streets, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a good day.